Is this thing on? Truly, is this thing on? In stand-up comedy, one of the most dreaded moments is bombing on stage. The lights are hot, and the audience is silent, and you are looking for a dumpster to jump into. At the time, you don't even know why this is your reality. You only know you wish you could be anywhere else. Today, we look at some of the key tips from the world of stand-up comedy for recovering from a failure on stage, and discuss how they relate to business growth. Bombing is scary.
The funny thing about bombing is it's not only painful for the comic, it is painful for the audience.
It's mutually painful.
It is.
So I have a dilemma. Before I die, want to do a stand-up comedy set.
All right, you should.
But I'm not funny. So
I'll give you jokes.
I feel like that
give one joke right now.
I can't.
Any joke.
I'm not that's not the kind of
you know a joke. Just give one joke.
Just do it.
I don't know any jokes.
Just one joke. A knock joke. It doesn't matter.
How did the Aggie fall? How did the Aggie break his leg playing golf?
How? Oh, I do know the answer.
He fell off the ball washing machine.
Yes.
Ba-dum-bum. That's not. I would tell stories. I wouldn't tell like jokes. Like, you know what I mean?
Stories are tough. You can't have a tight five at a open mic and tell stories.
I'm just gonna say, I think comedian, like doing it, especially when you first start, you have to be so brave. That's like that's amazing to get up in front of a crowd. It's so vulnerable to put yourself out there.
Well, in my experience, I've done musicals and plays and sketch and improv, but I only did stand-up once, and it was very nerve-wracking.
I bet.
And I didn't have anything prepared. That was even worse.
Oh, that was just foolish.
Yeah.
I was
surprised.
surprised.
Have to be so prepared.
Basically, I was the tech person for a improv show that had people trying stand-up for the first time, and the show manager surprised me and said, I want you to go up and do it. So I didn't have any preparation. But it was
so Roger, tell a joke.
Do you want me to tell a joke?
Any joke you have.
All the ones that I can think of are so dirty.
There's got to be a clean joke in there for
I got a joke. Beep, beep, beep. Like, just it all.
Right.
It's just bleeps.
Yeah.
Bleep.
Yeah. The aristocrats.
Can you deliver a joke
right now?
Yeah.
Eric
sure.
delivers jokes all day long.
No, I've got I've got all my corny jokes, like the golf jokes. So one of the jokes is this guy's getting ready to drive off the tee, and he sees this funeral going by, and he stops and he puts down his club and he takes his hat off and puts it over his heart and waits for the entire funeral to go by. And his buddy's like, Sam, I have never seen you so emotional. I've seen another side of you. He said, yep, Cheryl and I would have been married for 20 years.
But
it was Cheryl's funeral. Okay. All right, let's try another one.
Great delivery. You know, the joke was okay, but the delivery.
Okay, I am going to this is actually one of my favorite golf jokes is Jesus and Moses are out playing golf. And I heard this joke, but I added my own little flair. So Jesus and Moses are playing golf, and Jesus gets up and he's has to carry some water to get to the green, and Moses says, just go around. You can't clear that water. And Jesus says, Tiger Woods clears this water. I can clear this water. So he hits the ball, schwack, right in the middle of the water, just plunk right in. He tries 3 more times. All of them go in the water. Finally, he takes his club. He says, me, and then starts walking across the water to go get his ball. And so the next group comes up behind, and they don't realize it's Moses. And they said, who does that guy think he is? Jesus Christ? He says, no, Tiger Woods.
Not bad.
So my finesse to that is the me part, because that's what Jesus is going to say when he curses.
Wait, so that was a sub.
That was a sub joke. There was a joke within a joke.
Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in a situation? So one of the things about stand up is that you've got a lot of pressure on you to deliver, and there's a bunch of lights on you, and there's a bunch of people listening to you. And if you're not delivering, it compounds in
Yeah.
stress,
I could only.
and it gets worse and worse. But that stand up is not the only situation where that happens. There's probably lots of situations where you're expected to deliver in public speaking or in something else that you're trying to deliver, but something's not working. And then every second that goes by that the thing is not being successful, the pressure gets worse.
Pressure mounts.
So
Yeah.
we all had small businesses. When you very first started, I'm curious if you had this experience. When you very first started, the first time that a customer sat down and was actually paying me money, I was so nervous.
I wasn't nervous to take the money. I was nervous on my delivery because it wasn't like an instant transaction. They were paying me for services.
Yeah.
And truth be told, I sold services. I didn't know how to deliver. I went and learned.
Story of your life, man.
I went and learned,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But I did a good job. But yeah,
But you weren't nervous like taking this because that didn't like make it real for you. That
I was excited.
Oh my gosh.
I was excited
Okay.
with a little bit of nerves, right?
Yeah.
But there was excitement there because I was like, yes.
That's true. I can remember the first time that I did like a workshop or something like that, and it was for an amount of money that I would it would be more than I would have had at like a regular work day at the job that I had. And when we completed the workshop, and then I received the payment, and there was kind of this nervousness where you go, are they going to want this back? Did I do a good enough job? And you get that confidence boost where you go, no, I delivered. This feels really good. And then you start getting probably too big ahead. You go, I could do anything.
Well, I wonder, like, what do you think is harder? Doing a stand-up set, comedy set, and doing a good job, or starting and running a successful business? I mean, there's some.
Well, harder, yeah.
I'm not sure I've done either. No.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Oh. I mean,
define success,
I've
right?
attempted both, right? Yeah.
the thing about a business, I think most people are excited to get started, not as nervous. I mean, I'm sure there's some nerves, but you're excited because you have to be full of confidence in some kind of way, right? Like believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
But just think, if you're a restaurant owner and you just started a restaurant and you don't have any people coming in, maybe like one or two, or you have people coming in, but they're giving negative feedback, and then you try something and then you're still not getting a lot of people in, and you try something else and you're still not getting a lot of people in, your diminishing ego is going to go down so fast. It's so difficult. And ironically, if you can hold out and get better and improve, then it's going to go back up. But that moment where you're like, I have to go back to school, I need to return all this money, I'm going to go into debt.
Well, I think a more realistic scenario would be you have people coming in and you need to hire staff, or like your cook quit, right? And you're under all that pressure to deliver, right? Like,
Obviously, it all happens.
Yeah.
You know, all those different things can really give you that sense of bombing and that sense of, oh gosh, this is not working well at all. I think a lot of business owners end up in one of two categories. They either panic and try a flurry of things, or they try to solicit information from their customers to figure out what's actually happening, then panic and try a bunch of things really quickly. And it's giving that runway after you bomb
Yeah.
to say, it's okay. Now I'm going to try something else, and I'm going to take the next step, and I have to change. I have to try something new. It is going to be the difference between those two camps isn't the amount of anxiety or panic. it's one's going to be successful, one will be dumb blind luck or not make it at all.
But you also raise a great point, which is whenever you're doing a stand-up set that takes, let's say it takes 20 minutes because you're an opener and you're not great yet, at that 10-minute mark, I would want nothing more than to go to the audience and say, hey, why isn't this working? Why aren't you laughing at this? Can you give me some feedback for getting better? And that is one of the big advantages for running a local business, is that you can get that feedback, and sometimes they volunteer that feedback. You just have to listen and implement it. You have to listen to customers. You have to look at your operations. You have to look at, like James said, how you're delivering, and you have to evaluate the whole thing and say, was this what I wanted to do? Stand-up comics do not have that option.
The only difference for stand-ups, though, is they get feedback all the time because they can read the crowd.
Yeah,
they get
instant feedback.
So at the 10-minute mark, if you're bombing, if you're doing a 20-minute set, right? And most comics, I don't think, get that opportunity. Most are getting a 5-minute set, in a mix match and so forth. At 10 minutes, if it's not working, I do know a lot of comics that have, I don't know them, they've told me through TikTok and whatnot, famous comic. They've said at 10 minutes, they said, I changed my whole act. It just became crowd work at 10 minutes because I was getting nowhere with them, and it still bombed. Or 10 minutes in, no one was laughing. I said, to hell with it. I'm just going to offend this crowd just to try to get a reaction.
Yeah.
And so they have that measure. It's hard when if you're bombing in your business is people aren't coming. That's the hardest thing there is, because you have no feedback.
Well, I think that's great, because you're right. If you just ride that set out in that situation, it's just going to be a horrible experience. But that person, that comic changed, right? They got the instant feedback and they adjusted. I think in a real business too, you've got to take that feedback and adjust. Like I do think a lot of people, I've seen a lot of businesses refuse to make changes until it's too late, and then they try to make changes, right?
Yeah, that's true. Whenever you're doing stand-up, it can be scary when you're bombing because no one's laughing. But it means that you have to amp up your emotional intelligence, and you have to make these micro decisions in your head, which I always think the human brain is crazy, because this is kind of going on a neurological tangent. But think about, I've been thinking a lot about AI and robotics, but think about how when someone throws a ball, your brain is doing calculations to move your hand into the place to catch the ball. It's just wild to me. We can program computers to do that, but our brains are already doing that. And a lot of those processes go in your brain whenever you're doing stand-up, and they go and you look at the situation to see what micro details you can pick up that are working. It's really helpful when you get macro details.
Yeah.
When someone tells you this joke didn't work because of this, or your restaurant doesn't work for me because of your hours or whatever.
I don't think it's so rare that it's clear cut.
Oh yeah.
And when you're talking about comedy, the one thing that I've heard from comedians all the time, Jerry Seinfeld talks about this when he's doing his comedians in cars getting coffee. So he's, going through and talking to, I don't know how many different comedians he's done now. I've watched a lot of those, and one of the things they all talk about, the same joke can crush or kill or bomb 2 nights in a row. It can just fly out, and some of it is delivery, some of it is crowd, some of it's a combination. It's micro stuff. It's not really the macro, hey, this joke is not funny. It's, how do I execute on it?
That's interesting, because I've heard that too. Same joke, just maybe usually what they'll say is that this location, this show, it bombed. At this show, it was a hit.
Yeah.
Like that would drive me nuts.
Yeah.
But I mean, is that as simple as, hey, these people like my lasagna, but these people don't?
Yeah, it's hard. That is really hard. I think the emotional intelligence that you're talking about thinking of this as a connection with your customer is what's really important. Your food and your service or whatever it is that you're doing for your customers, you can objectively kind of figure out, am I doing well at that or am I doing poorly? I mean, if there's bugs in the burger. You know if you overpaid for the escrow and this person lost money. You know that stuff. Having that connection, listening to what those customers are saying, interpreting that, and then maybe taking it to a place that's a little unexpected is kind of the parallel to humor in doing good business.
Absolutely. Why did the farmer win an award?
I don't know, Roger. Why did the farmer win an award?
I'll tell you. He was outstanding in his field.
Nice.
We're going to cap this off with a list of tips to avoid bombing in stand-up. And I think we're going to see how applicable they are to personal success and running a local business. First one they say is start with your strongest material. I think that's accurate. Not just from a sense of, oh, well, this is the safest bet, but you're letting people know who you are off the bat. If when their first impression of you, you are making it clear this is your best, I feel like it's a branding move to say, here's where I'm my strongest. So I think that's pretty applicable to start with your strongest material.
Like the guy that came up to the farmer and said, hey, why does your pig only have 3 legs? He said, that's an amazing pig. Last night, my little Betty Lou was out on the ice in the pond and she fell in. That pig ran up, grabbed her by the scruff of her neck or by the collar, pulled her out, went and got my wife and saved her life. He said, that's an amazing pig. Why does it only have 3 legs? He says, last year I was out reaping the back 40. The tractor flipped over, pinned me underneath. That pig was so smart, came up, dug under me to relieve the pressure, went and got my neighbor, which is 3 miles away, brought him to me and saved my life. He says, that's amazing. But why does he only have 3 legs? Well, if you had a pig that good, would you eat them all at once?
I like that one. I feel like it needs music. It needs heartwarming music.
I knew that I knew the farmer ate the pig leg. I just knew that was coming.
Is there a lot of meat?
That's my best material right there up front.
It's not bad. Is there a lot of meat on a pig leg, though? I guess he went up to the haunch.
I don't know.
Yeah. Number 2, control your pacing. They say that bombing causes comedians to rush and speak faster, which makes the audience anxious. So they recommend take deliberate pauses to let punchlines land.
You know, Steve Martin says, comedy is the ability to make people laugh without making them puke.
You lost me at the puke.
That's the joke. Like, why? So I don't know about the control your pacing. I mean,
that is definitely important.
Oh, come on, that is such a standard. What is comedy? Timing.
But I guess what I mean is they say that when you're bombing, when you're in that moment of flop sweat, it is important not to start rushing through things.
Oh, yeah.
And when you're trying to run a business or when you're trying to achieve personal goals and it's not working, do you double down and try to run faster, or do you slow down and evaluate the situation? I don't know.
Well, I think we talked about it earlier. It's giving yourself runway.
Yeah.
You've got to let whatever's going to play out. And when you feel like you've bombed in whatever sense that is, when you've gotten a bad review, when you've gotten an irate customer, when you're looking at your financials and you haven't made enough money, whatever that is, you're going to need to change your plan. Obviously, you can't keep doing the same thing, but when you change it, you have to let it run its course. You can't change. Yeah. Go back to my favorite pizza place in Houston that I talk about all the time,
Shout
Fuzzy's. Out. I will say, and I hope they don't listen to this podcast, they decided, hey, we're going to offer hot dogs. I'm like, that is a knee-jerk reaction.
They're doing dogs now.
Yeah, we're going to do hot dog. Oh, they're gourmet hot dogs. And we had a hot dog. They were really good. I'm not coming to Fuzzy's for hot dogs. That's not what I was doing.
Is there cheese on it?
I'm looking at it from the lens of marketing because that's what I've been spending my time doing. And you have to evaluate the situation, make a change, and see how that change affects your campaigns, right? Because if you just start making a bunch of changes and something works, how do you know what worked?
Yeah, those SMART goals, those moments where you pick a metric and can compare it. That's the marketing life preserver. Where you go, I don't know what's happening. Well, let's test this. Next up, know your crowd. So I think this one's really applicable. Assess the room and read the room before you're set. If an audience is older or there for a specific type of show, I don't know what that means. Adjust your set list to fit the environment. I think knowing your audience is pretty critical.
I just had a thought. I wonder if this is why, like, the main comedian has another comedian go out first to warm up the crowd.
Oh yeah.
Like, let's see what they're at like tonight. Let's.
Oh, absolutely.
He's watching or she's watching to see how the crowd's reacting, and then they can adjust based on.
I always thought about, if I wanted to get better at stand-up, you need to time up on stage. And
Sure.
the best you can really do if you're just starting out, no one's going to bring you up to do a 20-minute set, and you don't have 20 minutes of material. You'll barely have 3 minutes, and you need 5, even at most open mics. I thought, why not do comedy at retirement homes? Built-in crowd. They're always looking for somebody to come by. They love it, and you get to practice stuff. So my joke for this one is, it was Indoor Media, had our big sales meeting conference, someplace tropical, Mexico, whatever. The resort we were at was having a Grateful Dead reunion festival thing. And I looked around, and these were people who clearly loved the Grateful Dead when they were younger and have lived hard lives since then. And I made the observation that it's pretty clear just as much drugs are being taken now as they were in the Grateful Dead prime days. The only difference is it's all for heart conditions.
Yeah, it's just different kinds of drugs.
Yeah, finding your audience, figuring that out, listening to them, key stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's super applicable when it comes to local businesses, because you have to put effort into branding and finding the people that are going to not only come visit your restaurant, but are likely to come back again and again. Your point about the warm-up comics is super true, because in comedy, you often start off doing open mics, which are unforgiving, some rooms. Then you become a warm-up comic, and that is difficult because you're with a group that no one, you can't really understand what their position are until you get into it. And then once you get really good as a warm-up comic, then you can start doing bigger rooms and you actually are drawing a crowd, and elements of it supposedly become easier. And it makes you think of when people run a local business, the truth is they have to do more with less resources. So when you're just opening, you probably feel like that warm-up comic saying, man, this is hard. If I can get past this hump, I can start doing sets for people who actually want to see me. But this first part, that's difficult.
Well, and what's worse is it's not linear. You don't have that arc and straight success that just goes up and up and up. You may do a whole bunch of open mics. You might get a invitation to go open for somebody. You might play a room, and then you're back to open mics, and you're like, but I played the big room at the Hilton, all 65 people, and now you're back at Monday night, at 6:00.
It ebbs.
And then you go again, and then, and everybody in their career does that. And businesses are like that. And even the most successful businesses don't stay successful at the same pace forever.
Yeah.
It reminds me in sports, you hear people talk about this all the time. When rookies come up, they talk about the game being really fast, right? No matter, if it's basketball, NFL. And then after a couple of years, if they start to get better, they all talk about how the game starts to slow down, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because they can see it better, they can think, right? They're processing, but in the beginning, it's just a blur. Like it's all just happening so fast. So I don't know.
should try to learn stuff from sports.
They had some
They
good
had
lessons.
some lessons, yeah.
There's some really great lessons in
Yeah.
And
sports.
supposedly, there's some good lessons about leadership and
I know.
determination
I
in
know.
sports.
Mm.
The final point is, I think, in my opinion, the most applicable, and that is avoiding confrontation. They say never insult or argue with the audience. It rarely goes well and makes the room uncomfortable. I know I have been guilty of this whenever I'm trying to solve a business problem. I stop looking at myself and I start looking at my team and I go, why are you screwing this?
The current team that he is with
Right now.
Yeah. No, well, I'm not managing y'all. But I look at other people and I say, if only this person had done this, then I would have been able to do this. Or I look at my audience and I say, if only they would check their email, I could remarket to them. I could get them to come back. And that is not a good mindset, because invariably I always go back and say, wait a second, Roger, you are cursing these people. And at the same time, there's so many things that you could be doing independent of them that could lead to your success. If truly,
You're Michael, you're not Tito.
Well, there is
I want to be
something.
Michael.
There is something to this. I mean, the reality is you kind of are as good as your team, right? Like, and I know we're going off track here, but you can only elevate a team so much, because especially in sports and even in work, like, you got to have people that do their role, right? And if they fall short, you with as a leader, you can replace them.
But it's a much easier mindset to think this person's falling short than
I'm falling short.
I'm falling short and I need to help them achieve what they can. And I would argue, especially in business, 9 times out of 10, it's you, it's not them.
And even if it is them, it because I'll say I have been in situations where I have been working with someone and they definitely are derelict in some duty. I cannot let that distract me from realizing that I have not delivered what I can. I'm using that as a scapegoat.
Yeah.
Sure.
For my own self-betterment. And so maybe I do grow, and maybe I am functioning at 110% and they still suck and still torpedoing it. And yeah, sure, it's time to fire them. But you get into this, I get into this self-pity mindset of saying, well, there's no point in waking up and doing this because so-and-so's not going to do this, so why not? And that's the part that I think is destructive. And the avoid confrontation element of it, I think also is not just teams.
I forgot about the avoid confrontation.
But the audience,
sure,
and your customers. It can also be really easy to say, well, these jerks that left me a review, they don't know what they're talking about. And sometimes they don't, but it is not good to have a public mudslinging fight with them.
Well, this reminds me of a time when I had my agency where I really wanted to deliver the best product we possibly could. And at this time, I had a designer doing the majority of our design work. And the person was good, but they just couldn't deliver to the level I wanted, right? And I let it go on probably too long, and that's me avoiding conflict.
But that's also where because if you were doing your job, they would know they weren't doing theirs.
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, it's definitely, on me also to be aware, right? And I eventually brought in someone else that did much, better work. But also, you're right. You got to take some ownership in it.
I have a conflict de-escalation joke.
Yeah.
It's it's visual. So this is the promise I will make to our listeners. We will record this joke as well
Yeah.
for video. But are you ready for the joke?
Yeah.
It's the wide mouth frog joke.
Let's bring it.
Oh,
And
that
so
one?
the wide mouth frog hops up, and she's a new mother. So she goes up to Mrs. Bird, and she says, "Hey, Mrs. Bird, what do you make your babies eat?" In a really big wide mouth. That's where you need to see this. The bird says, "Chirp, chirp, I make my babies eat worms." She says, "Oh, I don't like that," and hops along. So she goes up to Mrs. Cow. "Hey, Mrs. Cow, what do you make your babies eat?" Mrs. Cow says, "Moo, I make my babies eat grass." She says, "Oh, I don't like that." So she hops along. Then she goes up to Mrs. Snake. She says, "Hey, Mrs. Snake, what do you make your babies eat?" Snake says, "I make my babies eat wide-mouthed frogs." The wide-mouthed frog says, "They don't exist."
I like the voice of the wide mouth frog. Like, this was good.